Greetings, Deep Dive Podcast listeners. This is your boy, Sam Orum, coming at you with another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. We have another week of incredible information that we want to share with you. It's been a wonderful time, for this season. So I'm just excited. I want to jump right into it because we got a lot of stuff to cover. But I think it's going to be good stuff. It's an actual follow-up to last week's episode where we talked about, financial education from a standpoint of understanding your credit scores, being able to master your credit scores. But want to take that a step further right now while we're continuing to increase your education as it relates to finances and credit and things of that nature. I do want to again state for the record, as my disclaimer, I'm not a certified public accountant. I'm not a professional in any way, shape, or form. But what I have been able to do over the years is learn a lot, study a lot, and implement a lot just based on the fact that I own multiple businesses myself. And I use a lot of these practices, and they have been very effective for me. And I'm hoping they're very effective for you as well. So many people have been asking about, empowerment from a financial standpoint. So I thought I would do this series. And tonight's episode is part 2 of this 5-part series. So we're excited. We're going to jump right into it. Before we do that, though, for those of you who have been following and supporting, once again, I always have to say thank you so very much. People who are logging in from all over the world. You could do anything with your time. And the fact that you're spending time here on the Deep Dive Podcast, some of you faithfully, every single week, every single episode, I really appreciate that. I will continue to encourage you to like, subscribe, download, as well as share these podcasts because the information is vital for so many people and can help and benefit so many people. Sure, we do entertainment and guests from time to time, but I think these empowerment episodes are the most effective because it's something that people can tangibly use in their lives. So again, I thank you for tuning in, and I thank you for continuously supporting. So let's jump right into a couple of things. As I mentioned last week, we talked about your credit scores, mastering your credit scores, understanding what that's all about. We want to continue to help you build your financial stability. And, as I said last week, finances can range in so many different areas. And so it's a huge spectrum of financial literacy, financial education. But the more pieces of this puzzle that you gather, then the more opportunities you'll have to have that solid financial foundation and then build on that. It's a continuous process of learning. Even though I have multiple businesses, I'm still learning. I'm still studying every day for a couple of reasons. One, because things continuously change. Technology changes. People's thought processes change, ideologies change. So you have to maintain those types of changes as well. And then the second thing is for business, you always want to have a fresh approach to doing business. Some of the things that may have worked for you if you got business 5 or 10 years ago, it may not work now. You may need to have a fresh approach. If you're looking at this from your personal life standpoint, I always encourage people to press the reset button on their lives periodically, like you do on the computer, because it actually gets you into the mind frame of newness and freshness and things of that nature. I have a podcast. You can go back and look at the episode. I'm not sure if it was season 1 or season 2, but it says something about resetting your life. Take a look at that podcast or listen to that podcast because it accentuates what I'm talking about. And as far as you personally hitting the reset button on your life and for your business, make sure you're having a fresh approach to doing business. So I want to talk a little bit today about, financial balance. A lot of people call it living within your means or not living beyond your means, but financial balance. And there are just some simple principles that we have to apply in order to have that financial balance. First of all, you have to know how much you make. Now, I know this sounds crazy to a lot of people, because someone would say, well, I know how much I make. I don't necessarily mean, how much you make per month or per year, annually, or whatever the case may be. I'm specifically talking about your net income. And your net income is the amount that you actually have to spend. The reason this notion is so important is because a lot of people fool themselves by thinking, I make $100,000 a year, so I'm doing good. Well, is it good or well? I don't know. My teacher will tell me. One of my former teachers who listen in will tell me. But whatever it is, you may say I'm making $100,000 a year, so everything is going great. Well, it's not that you're making $100,000 a year. How much are you bringing home? What is your net income? That's what you're going to judge your financial stability on, not the amount that you make, but the amount you actually have to spend. So it's important to know how much money you make. And then also, you want to be able to understand, how much you make so you can match your monthly income or your income in general with your bills. Now, what do I mean by that? Some people may get paid twice a month. Some people may get paid every week or even monthly, whatever it is. Well, understanding how you make money will help you budget or get things in order so that you can pay your bills in that same vein. So let's just say you make money, monthly. I know in the past teachers got paid per month. I don't know if that's still the case in certain states, but I know here in Georgia in the past, teachers got paid once a month. Well, if you're only getting paid once a month, then you have to budget your bills accordingly, right? You have to, make sure that you have more money at the end of the month as opposed to having more month when the money is gone. So you have to understand that. So it's important to know how much you make from that standpoint as well. So those parts are vitally important in terms of building that financial balance. Also, you have to be in a position where you spend less money than you bring in. Now, this is kind of like, survival 101. You don't want to spend more money than you're actually bringing in. And if someone would say, well, how can you spend more money? Well, you start with credit. You start getting credit cards and all this other kind of stuff, and you spend it more than you actually bringing in. One of the ways that you can circumvent spending too much is to create a budget. Now, I know for a lot of people that's taboo, talking about spending or creating a budget. I never liked that either, creating a budget. There was a time, back in the day when we wrote checks. I don't think too many people write checks anymore, but when you wrote checks, it was important to kind of balance your checkbook, right? Well, I was one of those people who never balanced my checkbook, for good or bad. I didn't balance my checkbook. It wasn't because it was all overflowing with money. It wasn't that. It was just like it was a nuisance to me. I just didn't want to do it. And creating a budget is the same way. I just don't want to do it. Didn't want to do it then. Don't want to do it now. But here's the thing. We're talking about financial balance. We're talking about financial literacy. We're talking about building a solid financial foundation. A lot of times in business, in your personal life, in budgeting and everything, it's not what you like, it's what you have to do. Think about this. People make millions of dollars in waste management. Do you think they like waste? No, they don't like waste. It's a means to an end. Same thing with creating a budget. You may be like me and just don't like to do it. It may seem like a nuisance, but at the end of the day, you don't have to like it. It's just something that you have to do if you're talking about long-term financial stability. You can't spend more than you make, and you have to be able to have some semblance of order in your bank account, personal or business, so that you don't run into any kind of obstacles that will cause you financial harm. Remember, we're talking about financial stability. Now, here's a trick that ultimately kind of forced me to take budgeting more seriously. And I want to share this with you, and I want you to really receive this particular. There's nothing magical. It's just a way to understand why the budgeting is so important. It's called backwards budgeting. If you're taking notes, just jot that down. Backwards budgeting. And all you want to do is just write down your income, right? Write down your income, and then start subtracting each expense that you pay each month. Now, if you write down your income and you start subtracting the expenses, if you get to a negative number, then guess what? you're spending too much. You're living above your means, and you need to either cut back something or increase your income, period. Point blank, period. If you don't want to budget, do this backwards budgeting. And I'm not talking about creating a budget now. When I'm talking about backwards budgeting, is just a trick of the mind, so to speak, to say, wow, I made $1,000 this week. I'm sorry, this month or week or whatever it is. And when you start subtracting the debts out, you spent $1,500. That doesn't make sense. It's not going to work. So you're either going to have to cut some things or increase your income. Okay, so backward budgeting can help. But if you have the discipline and the wherewithal, you certainly want to create a budget, because that's going to be your foundation for that financial stability that we're talking about. And again, if you can't, what am I saying? If you can't literally budget right, or you know things aren't right financially, no matter what you do, then you're going to have to boost your income. You're going to have to increase your income. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to give you a simple formula that's going to help you out a lot. I think it'll help you out infinitely in terms of this whole notion that we're talking about, budgeting and all this other kind of stuff. But you do want to build your income if you've done this backward budgeting and you find yourself in the negative. You want to build your income. Now, if you're, truly working hard, and some people are, and your expenses are just at bare minimum, it's not like you can't cut anything else. You've kind of cut everything that you can, but you're still spending more money than you make out of necessity. And a lot of people are dealing with that out of necessity. Low income situations, or people are just out of necessity, they're spending more. Then the only solution is to boost your income. And you have to take this seriously, guys. You want to boost your income. There's a few ways you can boost your income. One, you may be able to adjust your tax withholdings. Now, I'm not a tax expert. Like I said, I'm not qualified to speak on that, but just do your own due diligence, do your research, and there may be an opportunity for you to adjust your tax withholdings just based on the fact that you're not making enough money. You're doing all the right things. These are your expenses are necessary expenses. You're not going out there balling out. You're paying your utility bills and your car note and your insurance, things of that nature, and you're still coming up short. You have to raise that income. So, adjusting your tax withholdings may be one of those solutions. There may be another solution. Maybe you may need to get a higher paying job. I know these aren't pleasant. This is not a pleasant conversation in a lot of cases, because it's not as easy as to say, just get a higher paying job. But if that is an option, that may be an option in terms of boosting your income. Some people may have to get a second job. Now, all of these things, these aren't permanent solutions, by the way. These are just things that will help you along the way until you get to that point where you don't necessarily have to do that. You have a solid financial foundation, and you're starting to thrive in other areas. So I would never encourage anyone to get two jobs. Two jobs, to me, two jobs is for two people. Three jobs is for three people. But what I am saying, if you have to get a second job or third job or whatever it may be, just for a short term, keeping the long-term vision in mind, then it's a sacrifice. My mentor always shared, one of my mentors always shared with me the power of sacrifice. And we have to be able to do that sometimes. So getting a second or third job or a higher paying job, whatever it may take to boost your income, is necessary in a lot of cases. So long, again, as you're not doing it for long term. Remember, your goal is just to live within your means first, and then build upon that towards your financial freedom. I speak a lot. Most of you know that if you've been following any amount of time, the Deep Dive podcast, I have several companies, and one of the companies is a business opportunity company. And I run into people all the time. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of people that I've run into that are struggling financially, really struggling financially. And, you offer them a business opportunity that could potentially, help them in terms of boosting their income. And inevitably, a lot of people like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I'm good. And all I can say is, no, you're not, love. No, love, you're not good. You're broke. You need to do something. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, it is what it is. If you're talking about financial freedom, it's not going to happen through osmosis. So, look, love, you got to do something. Get you a business, your tax withholding, adjust your tax withholdings, get you a higher paying job, a second or a third job. The choice is yours, but at the end of the day, you cannot thrive until you boost that income. Part of people not understanding the magnitude of, a business opportunity is because we have inherently been, how can I say this? I'm trying to, I always try to, I pick my words carefully. sometimes on these live podcasts because people are listening around the world. But I'll just say it this way: we have been conditioned in a lot of communities to live in lack and to not trust because you live in lack. It is a cycle of poverty that is done intentionally to keep broke-minded people broke. I refuse to live by that particular philosophy. I'll try whatever I need to try. I did a speech, I don't know, however long ago, maybe last year. It's called Create Your Future. Well, I'm of the belief that you can create your future, but it starts with how you think. It starts with how you think. You guys know I have a book called The Mindset of the Champion. It's on the screen here, and in that book, if you're not familiar with it, I studied a lot of champions in all aspects of life through history, all the way to the current time. I interviewed different people who have had success in their own lives. I, noted and documented a lot of the thoughts from my mentors over the years. And the one common denominator, which is why I titled this book, The Mindset of a Champion, the one common denominator for people who win is how they think. Okay. You can offer me anything in terms of an income or business or whatever it may be. Whether I want to participate or not, I'm never going to say no until I do my due diligence. Then I do my due diligence and I'll make a decision for me, but I'm always open to everything. Why? Because you have to have an open mind if you're not where you want to be. I'm not where I want to be yet. I want to get to the billionaire status, multi-billionaire status, and continue to grow from there. So I have to be open to all opportunities. People who have that broke mentality, it's a closed mind, and you cannot succeed with a closed mind. So when someone is offering you an opportunity, something that's been proven, that's vetted, that works, they're giving you a gold brick, and you want to question, well, is it real gold? Or why are you giving me this gold brick? Look, let one of y'all offer me a gold brick and see how quick I take it, and then ask questions later. If I find out later that the gold brick ain't gold, then okay, I ain't lose nothing, right? You can't fall off the bottom. Let me say it again, just in case somebody's internet messed up and you didn't hear it. You cannot fall off the bottom. So it is a mindset that would cause one to increase or boost their income. You have to think outside of the box. You can't survive in that proverbial box. You can't live by the Willie Lynch syndrome where we continue to, pull each other down or disparage each other when something is offered to you that can genuinely help you in your plight against brokenness, right? So keep that in mind as we're talking about boosting your income. I can already see the emails. I can already, hear the comments. I can hear my mom from a grave saying, boy, stop. I can hear my sisters like, don't go no further. Hey, it is what it is. Like my good friend Dr. Sidney Trim say, it is what it is and it ain't what it ain't. So we just have to keep it real. Another thing in terms of building that financial freedom, that financial foundation, is to stop relying on credit cards so much. Too many of us rely on credit cards and think credit cards is income. Credit cards is not income, guys. Credit cards are not income. In fact, the fact of the matter is credit cards are not designed for you to benefit anyway. It's designed for the credit card owners to benefit on your from your efforts. It's not designed for you to benefit. Now, if you're smart, you can, I guess the word is to manipulate the system legally, of course, in terms of not paying higher interest or paying the stuff off in time so that you don't, be subjected to all of the things and fees that they want you to be subjected to. But a credit card is not income. Just because you got a $5,000 card, you make $100,000 a year. I'm just using this for an example. You make $100,000 a year, you got a $5,000 credit card. That don't mean your income, your total income is $105,000. Your total income is $95,000 because that credit card is a debt. It's not an asset. Now, there are ways you can utilize it to your benefit, but you have to be smart. But as far as making ends meet, you absolutely, guys, you have to hear this. You absolutely must rule out credit cards as a way to make ends meet. You got to do that. Now, if you're doing that now because you got to eat, I understand. Been there, done that. Matter of fact, quick story. Let me tell you this real quick. When I was at college, I went to undergraduate at Florida A&M. And you know, you go to college for the first time, and all these little credit card companies, they come out and they set up in front of the campus, and they set up tables and they start giving you credit cards. You don't have to qualify; they just giving you credit cards. And there was a company back in the day called Amoco. It's a gas company. I don't know if they still have those. If not, I'm probably telling my age anyway. But there was a company called Amoco. It was a gas card. They were giving away this gas card. I think it had like $300 on this gas card. At the time, I didn't even have a car. But I filled out that application. I got that Amco card. And let me tell you, boy, me and my frat brothers and my boys and my friends, we ate good at Amco because we went to Amco. We never did buy any gas because none of us had a car. We just went there and got those hot snacks. We went to Amco, boy, and we was balling out. We was balling out, boy. And so yeah, that now then all of us had these Amco cards, and we maxed it out on our food and balling out and buying popcorn and Vienna sausages. Some of y'all up north don't even know what a Vienna sausage is. My country folk like me, y'all understand. You got people like Uncle Earl in Mississippi. I know you know what a Vienna sausage is. But we would go in this Amco, man, and we would ball out. We maxed those credit cards out, didn't buy a lick of gas the whole time, never bought gas. Well, that's an example of what I'm talking about when I say completely rule out credit cards as a way to make ends meet. If I had to eat with my gas credit card, then something wasn't right. All right. Now, because I was a college student, I had time to recuperate. It wasn't but like $300, but at that time it seemed like $3,000 when all of us had these little cards. But you don't want to use credit cards or credit to make ends meet. Sometimes you want to even decrease your credit limit if you don't have the discipline to not use credit cards for bills and things of that nature. It is a bill. You don't want to pay a bill with a bill, right? And in some cases, now hear me on this clearly, in some cases you may even need to close a credit card. Now, let me put a caveat there. I would only recommend closing a credit card if you don't have the discipline to have it and not use it. Okay, to have it and not use it. Sometimes closing a credit card will do more damage. We talked last week about your credit score. Closing a credit card would lower your credit score in a lot of cases. So you don't necessarily want to close them, only with the exception if you cannot have the discipline to not use it. Especially for frivolous stuff or using it for things you shouldn't use it for, then you may have to close it because you're taking the path of least resistance. But again, let me say, I don't encourage anybody closing a card. Just pay it off, put it in the drawer for a rainy day, so to speak. But just keep that in mind. That's very important that you don't, just close it out haphazardly. Only do it if you need to. Okay. The other thing you want to do, a couple of more things, and we'll get out of here. A couple other things you want to do. I notice a lot of people when they use credit cards, when they're living above their means, they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. Some of my older folk know what I'm talking about when we say don't try to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with the Hiltons or keep up with the Kardashians. Look, guys, a lot of this stuff you see, all of this Facebook stuff, Instagram stuff, and all of this stuff, it's not real. It's not real life. It's play life. Let me say it again. It's play life. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses, maxing out your credit cards, trying to ball and take selfies and on Miami Beach and doing all of these things and thinking because that's what the Joneses and the Hiltons and the Kardashians and all of these people are doing. You can't do that. You cannot do that. It's mostly fake. All this stuff on social media is fake. They got these filters that make ugly people look better. You know, they got these filters where big people look smaller, smaller people look bigger. They got these things where your eyes can turn from blue to gray. All this stuff is fake. I don't want to make myself look better because when you finally do see me in real life, you're gonna be like, "What the hell happened to you?" So I just try to keep it real. Some of these people, I've seen some people, man, and I don't want to get off message, but I've seen some people that were on these social media things, and I mean, they were just gorgeous. Just like Mary J. Blige say, they were, good morning, gorgeous. And when you see them, you should be like, good night. What happened to you? Let me stop. I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, y'all. So to save your nasty emails and texts, I'm just playing. But I am serious about the fact that you don't want to try to keep up with the Joneses. Seriously, though, in all serious, all jokes aside, living beyond your means just to try to impress somebody else can be totally detrimental to your household, and you don't want to do that. I remember, many years ago, just trying to impress people at the time, whether it's for relationship purposes, whether it's for business purposes, whether it's for friendship purposes, but I was just trying to impress different people years ago, and I can't even remember those people's names today. That's how insignificant it was. You're trying to impress people that you're not going to even, first of all, most of them don't care. And then, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, you don't even remember those people. They're not even in your life. Why are you going to go through all of this kind of stuff to impress somebody that, you won't even remember in a few years? Live your life, as I said in a previous episode, authentically. Live your life authentically. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Don't try to do that stuff. That stuff will hurt you. Again, at the end of this podcast, and we're about to close out shortly, but at the end of this podcast, I'm going to give you a formula that's going to help you to maintain control and not try to keep up with the Joneses and keep up with the Kardashians and all this other kind of stuff. I will say something about the Kardashians and those type people from a positive standpoint. One thing I admire about them, and I talked earlier about the book, The Mindset of a Champion. I do admire their mindset for creativity to advance their financial net worth. I do admire that. And I encourage all of you to at least have some creativity. We talk about boosting your income. Have some creativity in terms of thinking outside of the box to build a solid financial future. Remember I said you can create your own future? You absolutely can. You can create your future, but you have to be, on one hand, disciplined with the things that you're doing when you don't have, right? Think about this. Think about what I'm saying. When you don't have and you're lacking and you're trying to make ends meet, you have to have that discipline that I've been talking about, the budgeting, the not living above your means, all these type things. But then once you get to that certain point and you start to thrive, your income is increasing, all of these things are getting better. Now you have to have the intelligence, the education to understand how to not just make the money, but to keep the money. That's important. But I spend a lot of time in the beginning, because if you don't have that foundation, even if you make money, you'll ultimately go back to being broke. Why? Because you don't have the education to sustain that kind of financial maneuvering, if you will. You've heard of a lot of people who've won the lottery, and a few years later, they won millions of dollars in the lottery, and a few years later, they're broke again. The reason that's the case is because not that they're bad people, they just didn't understand. They just did not know what they needed to know to sustain their financial foundation. I told you guys in last week's episode how, in the beginning when I started making money, my partners and I, we were making a lot of money and just didn't understand the whole game of keeping the money. And I said last week how I poo-pooed credit, if you will. I'm like, who needs credit? If I want a car, go buy a car. If I want a house, I go buy a house. I don't need credit. See, that was a lack of education, because I could not have been more wrong. Right? So that's what I mean when I say you got to go from solidifying your foundation, getting the money. Then now that you got the money, you have to have some form of literacy in terms of financing and education, so that you can now not just make the money, but save the money. One thing that'll help, and this helped me a lot, instead of like using credit cards and things of that nature for big ticket purchases, like let's say you want to buy a TV, or you want to buy whatever it may be, some type of big ticket purchase. One of the things that I found is helpful is, as opposed to using a credit card, just save up for it. Put a couple $100 here, or $50 here, or $20 there, depending on what it costs, and just put it to the side. You have to be disciplined. This is another form of being disciplined. And then once you have the money, just go and buy it then, as opposed to putting it on a credit card. And by the way, remember, I don't want you to get your terminologies confused. It just came to my mind as I'm saying this, because on the one hand, credit, I'm talking about credit lines, I'm talking about OPM, other people's money. That is a good thing. Credit cards is a form of credit, but it's not a good thing. So I want to make that distinction. So when I'm talking about this, I want you to say, well, you just said, you got to have credit. Credit and credit cards are two different things as far as I'm concerned. And you do need credit lines. You want to have access. I'll use that word. When you have a certain amount of credit, you have access. Now, sometimes that comes in the form of credit cards, but remember, you're trying to distinguish between credit lines, having access, versus using credit as a means to your day-to-day, paying bills and things of that nature. Please understand the difference, okay? So when I say save for that big ticket item, that's so you don't have to use your $1,000 credit card to buy, a television. Just save up for however long you need to save up, have that discipline, and then you pay for that television. You save a whole lot of money in terms of interest. Here's something that's interesting. I want you to grab a hold to this thought, because it's interesting to me. If you can't afford to save for that purchase that I'm talking about, then actually you can't afford to buy it. Let me say it again, because some people are going to say, well, I can't really save $50 a week because I need that to put toward my bills, so I'm just going to put it on the credit card. No. If you can't afford to save for that purchase, you actually can't afford that purchase. Leave it alone. Leave that TV alone. You don't have to have it. That goes back to, trying to be like the Joneses and this, and trying to live above your means. I remember when I went to Mombasa, Kenya a few years ago, and I was touched by the simplicity of life, but the joy of life. A lot of kids, they came up to me. They were happy to get a piece of peppermint candy. They were excited to get a pencil, just a pencil to write in their tablets or notebooks with. A lot of them live in mud huts. There are no electricity. There's no such thing as TV. There's no such thing as video games. They don't even know about some of this stuff. When they play and have fun, it's in the little creek that's nearby, or little, whatever it is, near their mud huts. And they have so much joy. It would just touch your heart. Why am I sharing that with you? Well, the fact that we feel like we have to put this television on our credit card to give us joy is another trick. You don't have to do that. Joy comes in many forms. And if you can't wait a few months until you get the money to buy that TV to give yourself joy, you feel like you got to purchase it right now, there are some things inherently wrong with the process of how you're thinking. And I'm not trying to say that in a belittling manner. I'm just saying you have to kind of recreate your thoughts so that you'll understand your priorities, what's important, how to go about actually doing the things that you need to do. Because I am a big believer in rewarding yourself. But sometimes you have to have those rewards in a controlled environment, so to speak. And again, this formula I'm about to give you, it'll help you in terms of how to reward yourself and how to keep these things in the proper pocket, so to speak. So, make sure you keep that in mind. So I keep talking about this formula. If you've listened to me any amount of time, you've heard me use this formula before, but if you haven't, I want you to write this down because I think this is going to be the key to your long-term success and not living above your means. Write these numbers down. It's 4 numbers. The number 10, the number 10 again, the number 25, and the number 55. 10, 10, 25, 55. These numbers should be, moving forward, the foundation of your discipline to get money as an issue out of the way for the rest of your life. If you can follow this formula, you should be massively successful on your way to your wealth and once you've acquired your wealth and beyond. So what does this mean? 10, 10, 25, 55. What it is every single dollar, pound, euro, shilling, whatever your financial currency is. I'll say dollar because I'm here in America. For every dollar you make, for every $10, $100, $1,000 you make, you want to break that dollar down into this particular formula. 10%, the first 10%, and it has to go in this order, guys. And I know people are going to give me a hard time about it. Sometimes you just have to trust that something that has been proven to work works, right? So it has to be done in this order. The first 10%, so these are percentages. The first 10% of every dollar you earn should go toward either your tithes, your place of worship, however you worship, whatever that means to you. But that first 10%, it should go toward your tithes. It should go toward your place of worship. It should go toward your worshiping ideologies. Whatever it is that you believe, wherever you are in the world, it should go toward that. I'll leave it at that. You just have to trust and believe that that is the case. Here's the part that gets people tripped up a lot, and it's that second 10%. So you got the first 10% of your tithes or your place of worship. The second 10%, you have to pay yourself. Out of every dollar that you make, 10% has to go back to you, has to go back to yourself. Now, sometimes people are like, well, look, I need to pay this. I need to use this to pay a bill. Or I need to use this for my kids, or I need to use this for something else. You guys, again, if you followed my episodes, you've heard me say this time and time again on previous episodes. At some point, you have to eat the big piece of chicken. Where there is no goose, there are no golden eggs. If you aren't whole, then nothing else will work. If you're not whole, then nothing else will work. You got to take care of yourself. 10% to yourself is not, it's not a lot, but it's important. If you make $1,000, $100, you got to spend on yourself. I don't care what it is. In fact, I don't care if you throw it out of the window. It's not going to affect your bottom line, but you need to take 10% out for yourself. So you got the first 10% for your tithes or your place of worship. The second 10% you pay yourself. Take yourself to a movie. Treat yourself to dinner. Get your nails done. Get your massage. Whatever it is you want to do. But that second 10%, you got to do it in this order, guys. These companies that you're sweating to pay, they're already, billion-dollar companies in a lot of cases. And, they got theirs. You got to get yours. You have to be whole. That third number, which is 25, is 25%. 25% of every dollar you earn should go toward either your own business of some sort or personal development. It should go towards your business or personal development, personal growth. You have to do this because if you're talking about building that foundation, you want to build that foundation solid, but also long lasting, right? So you want to continuously invest in yourself, continuously invest in your business. That 25% is there. That's what that's there for. And then the 55% is your debt, your bills. So of all the money that you make, your debt should not be any more than 55%. So let me just give you an example. And I'm just using this number for round numbers sake, mathematics sakes. But let's just say you made $1,000. Okay, if you just made $1,000, then your debt cannot be any more than $550. It can't be, I think that's right, my math. It can't be any more than $550. 55% of whatever you make is your debt. If you do that backwards budgeting that I talked about earlier, and you made $1,000, and when you start doing your debt, and it came up to $600, you're still living above your means because you're at 60%. Because see, people will get tricked and say, "Well, look, I'm good. I got. If you're paying $600, I got $400 left. I'm good." No, you're not good because either you're infringing on your tithes, you're infringing on your personal money, or you're infringing on your business building money. You're infringing upon something if your debt is beyond 55%. So out of that $1,000. If your debt is $600, you're taking it from somewhere else. If your debt is $700, you're taking it from somewhere else. If your debt is $800, you're taking it from somewhere else. And God forbid is that debt is over $1,000 and you're only making $1,000, you're setting yourself up for some disasters. So, and then when you think about it, let's just say you're using the same number, $1,000 and your debt is $600. That's 60%. So you're taking that money. Most people, they start with taking it from their tithes or taking it from themselves. You can't do that. You gotta maintain this discipline. And I promise you, the people who keep talking about the mindset of a champion, the book, this is how these people think. The formulas may have been a little different for certain people, especially the people that I studied from, history. The formulas may have been a little bit different, but the thought process was the same. Pay your worship, pay yourself, build your business, pay your debt, in that order. And that's what that 10, 10, 25, 55 is all about. You got to understand that, guys. You got to maintain that discipline. I remember a guy telling me when I started making money, I'll never forget this because I was offended in one sense and hurt in another sense. But then at the end of the day, I understood what I was doing and I was using this formula. A guy that I was working with, when I first started making money, and he came over to the house and he's all excited about making money, and he said something to the effect of, "Sam, if you're making all of this money, why are you still living in this house?" And I had to take that deep breath because some of y'all know me, I could go to 0 to 100 real quick, but I took that deep breath. And I just honestly just shared with him, just calmly and honestly. The fact of the matter is, you ask me if I'm making all of this money, why am I living in this house? Fact of the matter is, the fact that I'm living in this house is why I'm making all this money. See, he didn't understand this 10, 10, 25, 55. If I could, yeah, sure, I could go out and ball out. I had enough money to buy any kind of house I wanted to buy, but it would mess up that formula. Something would have had to give, because there is a finite amount of money coming in. Something would have had to give. And I was living by this formula. And yeah, I wanted a better house. Yeah, I wanted more things, but it wasn't in the budget. You know why it wasn't in the budget? Because it would have taken me over that 55%. Now, once I continued to do this, then, at some point, and I'm not being braggadocious when I say this, but then I got that house. 6 bedroom, 25 rooms in that house. 6 bedrooms, 25 rooms in the house in Alpharetta, Georgia. And guess what? It's just me. Then he asked to come to the house, and I'm like, nah, you can't come, player. You can't come. That has expired. But you understand what I'm saying. So you don't deviate from the formula, no matter who it is. Remember, we said earlier, don't try to be like the Joneses. Use your discipline. Do the things that you need to do to set your own foundation and do the things that's going to make you better in your life, henceforth, now, and forevermore. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and close out this episode. This is episode 2 of 5. Next week, we're going to be back with another financial education episode. I'm excited about that. I've been kind of, writing it out and taking some notes. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. You'll see it in the promotions, but for the next 3 weeks, guys, we got some more nuggets that we're going to throw out there. And then soon we're going to bring in some true financial experts, CPAs, people who understand taxes and things of that nature that can give you that next level from a professional standpoint. I'm just giving it to you from my own experience. So hopefully this has helped and benefit you in some type of way. With that, guys, I appreciate every one of you. And I say this every week, and I truly mean it every week. Without your support, without your love, there would be no Deep Dive podcast. I could not do what it is that I'm doing. And I love empowering people. So I thank you so very much. I still encourage you to like, subscribe, download the podcast, share the podcast. Go to the website, thedeepdivepodcast.live. You can, it's probably 30, 40 episodes. I don't know how many episodes on there now, maybe even more. And just pick and choose what you need. Chew up the meat and spit out the bone. Pick and choose what you need. There are some great podcasts there. Building Capacity, which has been the highest rated podcast. I mentioned earlier, Resetting Your Life. And I don't remember all of the titles, but every single one of them have some type of message that can benefit you. So go to the website and check it out. Go to the YouTube channel if you want to see the video versions of the podcast. Not so much me, but the ones that I have the guests. You can actually take a look at it as well as listen to the message. And let's continue to empower people, right? So with that, guys, thank you so very much for this joining me on this second part of the 5-part series. I'm going to see you next week, and I'm also going to see you on the beaches of the world. God bless and have a good night.